What is up, 7th grade? This is lesson 30. Our objective is how do you add and subtract fractions with different denominators? And before we get into actually how to do that, let's recall a few things. First of all, on a fraction, the top part tells you how many pieces you have, and the bottom part tells you the size, or how many of them it takes to make one whole one. So this fraction 3/4, this is one whole. If I divide it into 4 pieces, I have 3 of those 4 pieces. So this denominator tells me the size, how many it takes to make a whole. This tells me how many of them I have. Also recall that any number divided by itself, as long as it's not 0, is equal to 1. So 3 over 3 is 1, 17 over 17 is 1, 2/3 divided by 2/3 is 1. Also, please recall that any number times 1 is just equal to that same number. So 3 times 1 is, 3. 17 times 1 is 17. Negative 2/3 times 1 is, you guessed it, negative 2/3. And also, you need to remember that in order to add or subtract fractions, the denominators, or the size of the pieces, must be the same size. So you're talking about the same size of pieces in order, if you're going to combine them together. Alright, so one of your vocabulary words is common denominator. And common just means that they would both have the same thing, something you have in common with your friends, right? So that they both have, you have something the same with them. Where the denominators is the number on the bottom. So if you have numbers like this, say 2/5 and 1/5, we've already learned how to do that. We can add and say, oh, this would be 3/5. 3/8 plus 5/8, remember we can add that, we can say, oh, that's 8/8 or 1. What we haven't learned, what we can't add yet, is when those denominators are different. So 2/5 plus 2/6, those denominators are different, so I can't add those unless I change the denominators to be the same. Same thing with like 3/8 and 1/2. So in order to find the least common denominator, that's simply finding the LCM, or the least common multiple, of all the denominators. So example 1 just says rename 2/3 and 1/4 so they have a common denominator. So first thing I need to do is I need to find the LCM of 3 and 4. So in order to do that, I need to find multiples of 3 and multiples of 4. And I've done this enough to know that, oh, that's 12. This common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12. So what I want to do is take this 2/3, and I want to multiply it by 1 and somehow get the denominator of 12. So I'm going to notice that 3 times 4 is going to give me 12. And if I put the same thing on the bottom and the top, see this red number right here is actually simply just a big 1. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying 2/3, that's what they gave me, times this number 1 that I've made up. Remember, 4 divided by 4 is just simply 1. And this 2/3 times 1 will give me something that's the same as 2/3. However, it's going to look a little different. So what I'm going to do then is 2/3, so the bottom is 3 times 4 gives me 12. The top is 2 times 4, which gives me 8. I'm going to do something very similar with the 1/4. I'm going to multiply it by 3 over 3, because when I do, that's going to give me 12 on the denominator and 3 on the top. Again, this 3 over 3 is just a big 1. So what I'm doing here is I'm multiplying 1/4 times 1, so this is the same as 1/4. And notice now they have a common denominator, so the bottoms are the same. Alright, so write these fractions with the common denominator and then compare the fractions. So I'm trying to figure out which one is bigger. It's kind of hard to tell because they don't have the same size pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the LCM of 6 and 9. Remember, 6 is 2 times 3, and 9 is 3 times 3, so I need to have a 2 and a 3 to make the 6, and 3 and 3 to make the 9. So 9 times 2, so 18 is going to be my LCM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this number on the right by something, so the denominator becomes 18. So I need to multiply this by 2 over 2. And the one on the left, I need to multiply by something, so the 6 becomes an 18, so it's going to be 3 over 3. So now, on the left, 5 times 3 is 15 over 18. and the one on the right is 7 times 2, which is 14, over 9 times 2, which is 18. Now I can easily see that 15 of the 18 size pieces is going to be more than 14 of those same pieces. So it's going to go this direction. Example 3 says arrange the fractions in order from least to greatest, and it gives us a hint you may write the fractions with a common denominator. So I'm noticing that 3, 6, and 12, all three of those, the least common multiple of those is actually 12. So I'm going to take that 2/3 and multiply it by something to get the denominator of 12, which is going to be 4 over 4. So this is going to equal to 8 over 12. The 5 over 6, I'm going to multiply it by something, namely 2 over 2. So that's denominator is 12, so it's going to be 10 over 12. And this 7 over 12 is already there. So notice all of these have the same size pieces, right? All of them take 12 of them to make a whole. So which one is the least? 7 of those pieces, 8 of those pieces, or 10 of those pieces? Well, 7 of those pieces is the least, so I'm going to say 7/12. The next smallest one is going to be the 8/12, which remember is the same thing as the 2/3. And then, of course, the last one there is going to be the 5/6. Those are arranged from least to greatest. Alright, now we actually get into adding and subtracting these. So remember, we have to have the same denominator. These don't. The LCM of 4 and 8 is 8. So I'm going to multiply this 3/4 by 2 over 2. Because 2 times 4 gives me 8. So this is really going to be 6/8 plus 3/8. Well, 6/8 plus 3/8 is going to be 9/8, which is the same thing as 1 and 1/8. Example 5 is subtracting. I really want to subtract these, but I can't until I get the denominators to be the same. I'm thinking of the LCM of 6 and 4, and I realize that those are 12. So I need to multiply this one by 3 over 3, because 4 times 3 gives me 12, and multiply this one by 2 over 2, because 6 times 2 is 12. So this is going to give me 10 over 12 minus 9 over 12. So 10 minus 9 is going to give me 1. My denominator is 12, so it's going to be 1/12. Example 6 says subtract these two. I need those fraction parts to be the same, or at least the denominator part of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this one by 2 over 2 because I realize that the least common multiple of 3 and 6 is 6. So this is going to give me 8 and 4/6 minus 5 and 1/6. So let's think 8 minus 5 is going to give me 3. 4/6 minus 1/6 is going to give me 3/6. But of course I don't want to leave the 3/6 like that because I can divide those both by 3. And this is going to give me 3 and 1/2. Example 8 says use prime factorization to help add these. So we already know how to find prime factorization, so I'm just going to pause the video, write those out in prime factorization to save us a little bit of time. Alright, so 32 is equal to 2 times itself 5 times. 24 is equal to 2 times itself 3 times 3. So least common multiple then is going to have those 5 2's in it from there. And then it's also going to have 3 2's and a 3, which is that part right there. And so the least common multiple is going to be 96. So what I need to do is I need to figure out how to get both these numbers to be 96. So notice this number is just missing that last 3, and this number is missing those first 2 2's. So I'm going to multiply this first one by 3 over 3, and multiply this one down here by 2 times 2, which is 4, over 4. What that's going to turn out is 15 over 96, plus 28 over 96. Because 2 times 3 is 96. This times 4, which is this blue part, 24 times 4, is going to give me 96. Then 5 times 3 is 15. 7 times 4 is 28. Now they have the same denominator. I just need to add those two numerators, the top. So let's see here, 28 plus 15, that's 3, carry the 1, 43. 43 over 96. Your homework is on page 213. You need all the 30s, all the 29s, and then 10 more of your choice.